Welcome back, Focus Learners. Today, we're diving into a seriously fascinating visual journey. We are going to decode the incredibly satisfying process of building a house completely from scratch. Literally from the muddy earth all the way up to a stunning architectural masterpiece. Let's just jump right in and see exactly how these pieces come together. You know, our brains just naturally love watching things being built. There's this deep, almost psychological satisfaction in witnessing order emerge from chaos, right? Well, today, in this explainer, we get to experience exactly that. We're going to walk through a virtual time lapse, breaking down these complex construction mechanics into clear, bite-sized steps that show how raw materials actually become a living, breathing home. Okay, so here's our roadmap for today. Section 1, laying the groundwork. Section 2, the interlocking technique. Section 3, framing and structural supports. And finally, Section 4, the finished masterpieces.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, laying the groundwork, because every great structure has to start with the earth.
Now, look at this incredible aerial perspective. You can clearly see the layout of the rooms rising straight out of this, honestly, incredibly muddy tropical site. Just look at how the foundational walls are already tracing out the exact footprint of the home. Out of all this murky, muddy water, the pristine lines of red brick are confidently asserting the shape of the future house. It's like watching a blueprint literally come to life. So, to get from that muddy footprint to a finished home, we're going to follow a really simple, logical progression today. First, preparing the site and foundation. Then, raising those walls. And finally, adding the roof and those all-important finishing touches. Moving right along to Section 2, the interlocking technique. This is where things get really cool, kind of like giant puzzle pieces. So what exactly is an interlocking block? Well, it's a building material designed specifically to lock together, just like the pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. The absolute genius here is that it drastically reduces, and in some cases completely eliminates, the need for thick, messy beds of mortar between the bricks. It is a total game changer because the geometry of the block itself handles the alignment. As we look closely at this construction, I want you to try and spot the absence of those standard, thick cement lines. Okay, wow, here we can really see the sheer scale of the interlocking technique. These walls are rising higher and higher through the landscape, fully enclosing the rooms. And true to our definition, looking at these vast expanses of red block, you'll see they sit perfectly flush against one another. They're utilizing their own built-in geometry for stability instead of relying on sloppy layers of gray cement. It is just incredibly efficient. Now, the real secret is perfectly visible right here on the corners of these intersecting walls. Look super closely at those jagged, stepped edges. They literally look like the teeth of a jigsaw puzzle, don't they? Those precisely engineered grooves mechanically grip the neighboring blocks, keeping the entire wall perfectly straight and unbelievably strong. It is self-aligning geometry at its absolute finest. Let's transition over to Section 3, framing and structural supports. Let's see how these walls are stabilized as they go up. Notice the stark visual contrast here on this exterior. Breaking up that massive wall of red blocks is this prominent horizontal white band. That right there is a concrete ring beam, poured directly into the brickwork. It acts almost like a really tight belt. It ties the walls together to prevent any bowing and provides absolutely critical structural integrity as the house grows taller. Let's just quickly review the diverse palette of materials we've actually seen so far. We've got the interlocking red blocks, the stark concrete ring beams, and the rough stone base foundation. But, there is one more absolutely crucial material we really need to highlight here, and that's the wooden lintels. So, stepping inside the skeletal structure for a second, look right up above the doorway. You can clearly see these thick, sturdy wooden beams. Those are the lintels, bridging the gap. They serve a vitally important purpose. They are supporting the immense weight of all those interlocking blocks stacked up above them so the openings don't just, collapse. It's a beautifully simple, highly effective marriage of traditional wood framing and modern interlocking block tech. Okay, so we've seen the mud, we've seen the raw puzzle pieces, we've seen the structural beams. And honestly, it begs the question, how does all of this raw, jagged material actually come together in the end? What does it look like? Which brings us to our final stop, Section 4, the finished masterpieces. It is time for the grand reveal. This side-by-side comparison is just phenomenal, isn't it? On the left, you have the bare, jagged blocks sitting right there on the dirt.
And directly next to it, the beautifully painted, rich terracotta, multi-story final product. The raw blocks provide the incredibly strong bones, sure, but this finishing process, that is what gives the home its ultimate character and warmth.
Let's look a little bit closer at a finished exterior here. Notice how the horizontal lines of the interlocking blocks haven't entirely disappeared. They're actually still subtly visible right beneath that rich coat of paint. This adds a really lovely, structured texture to the exterior wall. It prevents the house from looking like just a flat, boring box, and instead, it perfectly frames those striking, highly reflective blue windows. It's a fantastic blend of a structural necessity becoming a beautiful aesthetic feature. Finally, take a look at this beautiful single-story variant. The finished product features a sweeping, traditional red tiled roof and an incredibly welcoming front porch. Looking at this clean, polished entryway, it completely hides the muddy site and raw materials it started from. The transformation from literally just earth to stunning architecture is fully complete. So the core takeaway from this explainer is super clear. The true beauty of interlocking construction isn't just in the final polished look. No, it's really in the highly logical, satisfying journey it takes to get there. It is a brilliant, brilliant example of form and function working together absolutely seamlessly. So, I'll leave you with this to ponder. Based on the structural mechanics and the incredible step-by-step transformations we've explored today, if you were building your own home from the ground up, would you trust this puzzle piece method for your masterpiece? Thanks so much for joining me, Focus Learners, and as always, keep actively exploring the structures around you.